Rich men north of Richmond, Lord knows they all just wanna have total control. Living in
That is such a valuable piece of advice there.
These are the sorts of things that we should talk about right in the first 5 minutes of the podcast.
Started giving people free quotes.
In sunshine and rainbows, it is
Definitely a thing for just being a solo
The
operator.
change in mindset makes a massive difference.
Welcome to Aussie Lawn Stars.
It's all good fun and games to have a joke. We got to have a joke about things when we're in the lawn care industry because there's so many people that are passionate, and I'm going to use another Christian term, fundamentalist, when it comes to how they do things.
Yes, yeah. It's people can be set in their ways, or
Yeah.
and then they believe in a certain way, or whether it's battery or petrol, and
And I think it's good to be able to be a little bit lighthearted about it because a lot of people can't.
yeah,
But it's. I mean, we'll get into some of those topics, but I want to know a bit more about who you were because you're similar age to me, or probably closer to my older brother's age. So only a couple of years between us at the most, less than 2
sure,
years.
yes.
Which means you've got quite a history.
Quite a history. Probably not that exciting, but we've all got a story, haven't we? Yeah, I didn't get into gardening and working for myself until late 20s, so 2004.
Yeah, that's about 6 years before I did.
Yes, yeah. This is my 21st season, 21st year, as you'd say. So
Yeah, nice.
it's really good.
So was it straight into the industry doing it for money, or was it more the fascination with going to nurseries and open gardens?
No, I didn't really do that a lot. As a child, we used to go to nurseries. There's a really big nursery that was in my area and still is now called Garden World. A lot of you Melbourne listeners would know Garden World. That's been around forever and a day.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of nurseries in our area. So you go with mum and dad, and they were into gardens. And Dad's not really a gardener. Dad had cut the lawn as short as a bowling green, and mum did all the gardening.
Yeah.
So
That's traditional Aussie lawn.
Yeah, there was no path down to the Hills Hoist in the middle of the backyard, but very Australian gardens. But
No path means you've got to catch the grass.
yeah, I do reflect back on my dad's parents. They were in Frankston, and they had the 1970s brick veneer home, and they had hindsight they had the Hills Hoist with the kikuyu grass and the concrete path down to the Hills Hoist, and just a few diosma shrubs and nothing too inspiring, but everything was trimmed to within an inch of its life.
Yeah, it sounds like a typical Melbourne area.
Absolutely, yeah. So then when I left school, I did hospitality for a long time. I was working
in hotels or in a restaurant.
Yeah, pretty much started at sporting clubs locally. Then the casino opened in mid-90s, and I probably went there to the temporary casino about a year in.
Back when Australia started to go wayward, open the casinos and everyone's gone south.
Yeah. At the time, you think, it's great because, opportunities and whatnot.
Yeah.
And when I was young, I always thought I want to own pubs. I just was fascinated with that whole. I didn't drink when I was underage, but I just liked that whole. I think I liked when I got to know people who own pubs, and
it's an easy way to be social, isn't it? Because you don't have to put a lot of effort in. You're in the right place for everyone to be social.
Yeah, people are coming to you. Yeah. So did hospitality there for a long time. Went to the new casino, and then just got burnt out and was over it, and just really didn't like it at all.
I can understand that. I've never done it myself, but certainly can appreciate that there's aspects of that life that would be rather hard to deal with.
Yes, and back then you could smoke there. It's in the custom, so they're smoking in your face pretty much, which is very unpleasant.
I've never smoked myself, but my ex-wife was a smoker, and so I've been around people that smoke a lot, and you kind of get a little bit addicted to the secondhand smoke at some stage too. So, I can empathise with being in an environment where it's forced on you. It is not nice, and I'm so glad that we're in a country, which now says there's a lot of rules around that, so that it makes it easy for you to have fresh air instead of having it forced on you.
That's right. Yes, no, it's a good thing. And working at the casino, there was like a lot of people are happy and celebrating and partying, but there's also those people who are stressed because they're gambling and they're losing. So they like to
Yeah.
take that on the lowly paid staff.
It brings out the best and the worst of people, right?
Absolutely. And I was thinking about it earlier. Back then, you could be working, you're doing a midnight shift, midnight to dawn shift there, and the people coming in at 3 a.m. in the morning on a Wednesday. It's a different side to Melbourne.
I was going to say, just purely 3 a.m. on a Wednesday says a lot.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so then I left there and I went into local government in my area and was like a facility officer.
Yeah, okay.
So they're doing organising catering, light maintenance issues, organising for them to be taking care of, some of the local government buildings.
Yeah, okay.
But the pay was just dreadful, and it was like 26, 28 grand, and
Yeah.
and I remember, and I really didn't like it after a few months. And the people were really lovely, but my direct boss sat me down and he said, if you make this criteria, you'll be able to get like an extra $1,000 a year.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, I don't think it's going to take me a long time to get anywhere.
I think I remember back it would have been maybe 2001 or somewhere around there, one of the jobs I went for, it was like $13, $14 an hour.
Yes.
I was like, what am I doing?
Yeah. You want to, I don't have to earn $1 million, but you need to be earning money to, save for a house and whatnot.
Yeah. Well, I was talking to Clint Adams recently. I don't know if you've seen that interview I did, but we were talking about the minimum wage being $23 and something. And
Yes.
it's like, the word criminal comes to mind. It is basically criminal to pay somebody $23 an hour.
Yes.
But that's what people are. There are quite a few people out there that are willing to work for that just because there's certainty in knowing that they turn up and they get a paycheck.
Yeah, and it was a full-time job, so it was good hours. Or being a counsel, it was very good hours.
Yeah, but better than the nightclub, better than the casino.
Yeah, that's it, much better. Yeah, so
no 3 a.m. Wednesdays.
and I always wanted to. I realised that I wanted to work for myself.
Yeah.
I thought, if I'm going to be working hard in whatever it is, I want the reward. I want the reward in my pocket. And I wasn't fussed about taking orders from anyone. But it was that. Yeah, I want that reward in my pocket, and I think I want to be outside working. Yeah, and then and I thought, and I ummed and ahed about it for a little while, and then I thought, do I start off as an independent, or do I look into a franchise with a gardening business? And I went down the independent route.
Yeah, I think you've had the same thought that a lot of Australians have, right? There's probably close to 30 million Australians now, which means let's go with a very shallow number and say there's at least 10 million Australians in the workforce. And a large percentage of them would be just like you were, sitting there going, I don't really like my job. What's the opportunities outside of it? Do I have a good case for being employed by somebody else, or is it really attractive to work for myself where I'm my own boss? I get to make the rules, and then lawn care is one of the first options people consider.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, like you've talked about in the past, it's unregulated. Anyone can get a mower or borrow a mower and a whippersnipper and get into it.
I've had a few people that I know close by me that have been thinking about doing it, and I'm like, look, I've got an old whippersnipper, blower mower, and I even got an old trailer if you want. Here you go. So the barrier to entry for some people is really low. For most people, like even if you've got a Kia hatchback, you can throw those tools in the back.
Yeah, I always chuckle when I see people with that setup and thinking, oh, they're pretty new.
Yeah. Either new or they're happy doing it for a couple of hours on a Sunday.
Yes, yeah. Whereas, I knew pretty soon that this is the path I wanted to go down, and could see the benefits to it. A lot of hard work, but I thought, no, this is what I want to do. And And here I am now. I couldn't think of anything else to be doing.
21 years later.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
I got lots of good clients now, and I've certainly done a lot of ordinary jobs.
Yeah.
But you learn along the way, and I always found with the gardening and that my knowledge and my skills improved. You know, the more jobs I got, the more variety and trying to avoid those bookings where people want you to come for an hour's weeding.
Yeah. So when you said that you looked at the difference between a franchise and being independent, and what did you say it was? 2000.
So I started in January 2004. So it was 2003. I actually broke my wrist doing another job. And so I had a few months off, and I was, umming and ahhing. And I thought, that's when I sort of headed. I thought, no, I want to go into gardening.
Yeah.
So I had a bit of time to and ah, and I thought, nah.
I think at that point in time, Jim's mowing would have been a really attractive option because lawn mowing had gone through a bit of a boom and it wasn't yet ready for the financial crisis. So it would have been a really attractive time to look at a franchise option and go, yeah, we can do this. And it's worth paying the franchise fee even.
Yes, yeah.
But you chose the other path.
Yeah, and maybe that was just stubbornness, perhaps, or I
Same
didn't.
with me. I don't want to pay that fee. I can do this on my own.
Yeah, and it probably took a bit longer, but here we are today.
Yeah. So, when you started, did you look at buying a run off somebody, or you just started cold?
No, very raw, cold.
Yeah.
When I left the council, the local job, I was doing some labouring for my father who had a plumbing business, and so that's probably where I got the desire for my own business and for working outdoors. Not that I didn't want to go down that path, that industry, though it's very lucrative. It just didn't really interest me. But I think I was sort of just filling in time.
At that stage in life, you probably would have looked at plumbing as the dirty trade.
Dirty trade, trying to get paid, and chasing builders for payments and that sort of thing. But
it might be lucrative, but only if you get paid.
That's right.
And it's backbreaking because back then, if you were plumbing, you were doing a lot of hand trenching.
Yeah, and climbing under houses with shovels and very tight spaces.
Yeah,
but no, it was good at the time, and you learn different things that you can I reflect back on now that are handy. Little bits of tips and that, what to do and what not to do. But no.
Yeah. Okay. So, did you start with a trailer, or I'm guessing you didn't start in the back of a Kia hatchback because Kia was unheard of.
I didn't have a Kia hatchback. I had a Toyota Corolla hatchback.
Ah, yep.
So that was sold before I even started.
Yep.
So basically, the money I'd saved as a house deposit that went on buying a second-hand Ford Ute that was 2 years old.
Ford Courier?
No, Ford Falcon. Thank you.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah. So I traded in the Corolla, got the Ford Falcon Ute, and I had the mower in the back and the whippersnapper, the borrowed whippersnapper.
Bench shaft.
Yeah, no, it was. I can't remember what brand it was. If it was a Ryobi or it was a McCulloch. It definitely had.
So Bunnings brand.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but it was very temperamental. And
did you get a blower at that stage, or was it broom?
A broom.
Oh man, I came in at the right time when I started in 2010.
Yeah,
straight in with a BG 56.
Yeah, it didn't take me long to buy a blower. I got an Echo blower.
Yeah, it was huge labour saving compared to the broom.
Yes, yeah. Some of the older customers I had early, they didn't like blowers, and they were happy to pay you from to sweep.
Yep.
And if you didn't have a lot of customers, that's just how it was. Take the work.
I think never done it myself, but it sounds therapeutic almost. It's like, oh, you've done the hard work and now you get to chill while you push the broom.
No, those jobs end up going when you develop a bigger client base with with actual gardening and
That could be a good time to talk to the customer. It's like, I'm on the broom now. Come and talk to me while I'm brooming.
I ended up politely telling the customer that loved working for you and that, but the very little amount of mowing and gardening on the property, I said it's all sweeping. I've got these hedge trimmers, etc., and other stuff. I want to be using them in actually doing gardening and learning and doing something a bit more interesting.
Had a fairly strong desire to do more gardening than mowing, or a mix rather than just mowing.
Yeah, no, definitely a mix. Yeah, I have a lot of variety, which I love.
Yeah.
Yeah, I personally couldn't do lawn mowing 5 days a week. I would get bored.
Yeah, that's fair.
I love pruning and hedge trimming and spreading mulch and planting.
Completely the opposite of the traditional mow only. Mow and blow. No, don't ask me to do the hedges. No, you're the opposite.
No, that's where I go to a quote and the first thing the people say is, we've got someone who does the lawns.
Yeah.
They said he doesn't do gardens, and I rub my hands together because I just think there's all that work there, and I love doing it.
Yeah. Efficiency is the thing that rules a business and the decisions you make as a small business owner. Right Mowers give you the options in their product lineup to match efficiency with size, fuel usage, and the type of jobs you want to target, from catching to mulching or side discharge, from roadside verges to acreages, and manicured lawns to 6 feet tall and super long. I've been using the Right Stander I 42-inch with a Catch Pro for manicured areas and the Stander ZK61 to maximise productivity for large open acreage mowing. If you need to replace your push mower, try the 32-inch Stander B. If you have more open access to residential properties, there's a 42 through to 48-inch option that suits you. And if you want to enter the acreage market, the 52, 61 and 72-inch machines have choices in engine size and model type to suit the work you want it to do. Right Standards go the distance, saving you time and money, season after season. Welcome back, Ben. We're
Thanks, Gary.
going to talk about business because, let's face it, we're all here to make money. And I look at this with every interview that I do. And even yesterday I interviewed somebody who's not doing lawn care and gardening. He's still in our industry, but it's a completely different type of business. And I still ask, okay, so you can say you don't want to talk about certain things if you would rather not, or you can do whatever. Your answers are not going to be offensive to anybody, but the more details we get here, the more listeners benefit. So
yes,
no pressure. So one of the things you've mentioned, and I agree with 100%, if you participate in LMCA or the Australian Professional Lawn Contractors Groups, you can ask these questions there. So if you don't like what you're listening to on a podcast here, jump onto those Facebook groups and fire away, ask the questions. What should I charge? And yeah, somebody will tell you that you suck for asking the question, but the majority of people are happy to help you, which is why we're going to give those groups a shout out.
Well done.
So, yeah, you've found a lot of value in the online forums, the Facebook groups.
Yes, you just learn that you can learn about obviously what others are charging in your area, because I mean it's all relevant to your area. Like being in Metro Melbourne, you need to be charging more than perhaps a little country town where the cost of living is perhaps lower.
Yes, and I live in a little country town, Ben. So when I started in 2010, I was charging $50 an hour, and not all of my customers were at that rate. Some of them were not worth doing. But I was aiming for $50 an hour. That was my goal. And I got told pretty quickly, 50 is not enough. And compared to Sydney, you should be charging $60 an hour. And I'm like, wow, I'd be rich. But then I've talked to people in Adelaide or people in Alice Springs or various places around the country that are more remote than me. Today, there are still people charging less than $50 an hour, and I hear $40 an hour from people who are running business, not just doing beer money.
Yeah,
it's pretty scary. But the hourly rate is so subjective, right? And the example I like to throw in here is if you are traveling 5 minutes in between jobs, or you're traveling half an hour in between jobs, that makes a massive difference to what your day rate is. So I might throw out a number and say, hey, I think Ben could probably earn $80 an hour, or maybe even $150 an hour.
Oh,
But
gee.
where it becomes really relevant is if I say, hey, Ben, how do you compare to me? I'm doing one job, one day, all day in one place. And I think the average contractor, regardless of whether they're in one place all day or whether they're traveling for their jobs, should be aiming for minimum of $600 in a day. And I see
Absolutely.
people aiming for $800 to $1,000 a day, and a couple of them are hitting $1,500 to $2,000 in a day. This is solo.
Yeah, oh, gee. Yeah,
So
I haven't
that's
heard
the upper end.
those two last figures.
Yeah, that's the upper end. But
Yes.
when I hear somebody say they're doing $250 in a day, I'm like, okay, are you doing it for just a few hours, or are you really running yourself into the ground for nothing? So reflecting on that, Ben, what does it look like for you in terms of business? Are you in the middle somewhere?
Yeah, definitely not at that lower end.
That's good
Yeah,
to know.
you couldn't, or you couldn't survive.
Well, given that you said you've been in business for 20 years now,
Yes,
that's good.
I wouldn't be able to buy a house, and and that's the thing. Even if you were charging $50 an hour now, once you take out all your running costs for the day, there's not going to be much left over to pay your rent, to pay your mortgage, to pay your shopping, your
Yeah.
food bills.
Well, I've talked about this a few times, right? But when I was doing $50 an hour, so back in 2010, and it would have been 2011 or 2012, I was still at $50 an hour, and I put on an employee. And I worked out by the time I paid my employee $20 an hour, and then I paid my expenses, that my employee was working for me, but I wasn't making any money for the work they were doing.
Yeah, they're earning as much as you, really.
So I reckon, taking that into account, I was on average earning less than $12 an hour because of the travel in between jobs, the downtime fixing equipment, doing book
Yes.
work, all those things that come into it. Just going, yep. I might have been able to say I could do $25 an hour, and that's a stretch to say I was doing that good. But then with your unbillable hours and everything, it sucked at $50 an hour. And that's between 12 and 14 years ago.
Yeah, and you're hearing of people doing $50 jobs or $50 an hour.
$40 an hour.
Yeah.
Still.
I guess they don't know. Perhaps they don't know anyone else in the industry, and they've plucked this figure out.
When I talk to people that are doing that, I'm like, go for it, do it if that's what you need to do, so that you're getting jobs. But look at where you want to be, where you need to be. So yeah, I'm curious from you, Ben, in terms of what that looks like. Where do you want to be, and what do you need to be? I like the annual turnover figure. I like to go, okay, in the lawn care industry, and tell me how this fits for you. But if you're running your basic equipment, your push mower, your whip snipper, and your blower, then you're running really lean.
Yes.
And you could probably get away with a turnover of $80,000 a year. If you're running hedge trimmer as well, and you probably got some battery gear, and then you buy a ride-on mower as well, I'm going to say you need to be doing 120,000 plus a year.
Yes, yeah. You can't do it. You can't be any lower. Yeah, I mean, I don't have ride-on mowers. All my work's residential, and the gardens the lawn areas are getting smaller and smaller here in Melbourne.
So you get to stay pretty lean.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty lean. I mean, I've spent a lot of money on batteries and the tools, but yeah, apart from that, now I'm not spending a lot of money, generally speaking.
Yeah,
Apart from the odd purchase here and there, the odd upgrade.
When your equipment, and I'm going to say most of your equipment is less than $1,000 a tool, except for your mower, you might be, if you got an Ego Select Cut or the brand new Ego commercial unit, you might be up over $2,000 for a mower.
Yes, yeah, I bought the Ego XP back
Nice.
in November, December, but I've still got the trusty Honda 196.
So that's the non-self-propelled unit. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love it.
Yeah.
Love it. I know plenty of people will diss me, but
Not me.
no,
Not me.
I'm a massive fan of it.
Yeah. It's a powerhouse, and it might be a little bit on the heavy side, but it's
Yes.
bulletproof.
Absolutely. And it starts first time
Yep.
every time. And it does a great job. And it's
Yeah.
got the
If they get to the stage where they're not starting first time, you have abused that machine something chronic.
yeah. I think it must be 6 years old. I think it was one of the last ones where they put the snorkel in.
Yep, good. So you haven't gone to the one that's breathing dust all the time.
No, and that snorkel works really well. But
Yeah.
there'll be a time where that'll go, and I'm sure I'll be all battery.
Yeah. So we want to touch on equipment more a little bit later on, but at the moment we really want to look at what that means business wise. So in terms of your business, you're running fairly lean. You don't have a $20,000 self stand on mower or zero turn, nothing like that.
Yeah.
So in that sense, you could run a business at around $100,000 turnover or less, and you'd still be okay. You might be struggling to buy a house with the current financial crisis or cost of living crisis, get it right. But I've seen some of your work, and if anyone looks at your profile picture, I guess now's a good time to formally introduce you too. So for people listening, it's Ben Stroud.
Indeed.
We had to sneak him into the dungeon quietly without bringing too much attention to this, right? But your profile picture is beautiful, mate.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
So it's proof that you do good quality work, and I guess that's going to be a reflection of the type of customers that you do, but also the rates that you charge and the value that you have in your business.
Yeah, no, I think I've aimed to be, I aim for the person who wants the nicer property, that wants the nicer garden, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a $5 million home. It can be just people who are house proud, who are prepared to spend to pay you what you're going to charge because they know that you do a great job, and it makes their day when you leave.
Yeah,
and they might not be gardening people. Like they might like a nice garden, but they got zero interest in gardening. So those people are really good. They're happy with what you're doing, and they don't query the bill. You put in a fair price.
Yep.
And they keep getting you back, and no, I love it.
Now I've talked to people across Australia with this, and when you're saying you're aiming for people that they want value in their gardens, they want to make sure that it looks good. They want a little bit better than the neighbours, possibly. Because when I've asked people this question, it seems some people consider the top 1%, meaning the person you're working for doesn't spend time at home. They don't want you to ask questions. They just want their lawn and their garden looking immaculate and better than everyone else's.
Yes.
So it doesn't matter if you're there 5 days a week, as long as their property looks spectacular. That's the top 0.1%, right? But other people consider high-end customers to be probably what you're talking about, just kept nice, a little bit better than the rest.
Yes, yeah.
They don't mind spending a bit more money rather than having a cowboy look after it. They want to know that you turn up regularly and do the job properly.
That's right. And if there's any issues, I want to communicate with them, or if they don't want to know about it, they just want me to take care of it. But, no.
Yeah, okay. So your business model is built around chasing customers that want a little bit better.
Yes, yeah. I don't want the jobs where someone just wants that end of lease or that once a year because they're renting a place, which is nothing wrong with that. I've got clients who rent, but I don't want the people who are just going to want someone to come in and mow the grass every 6, 8 weeks, 12 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair.
Because you're just up against it. When you come back and the grass is taken off, you just can't get it looking nice. And you're there longer and they don't necessarily want to pay you anymore.
Yeah. So I look at, from the lawn mowing perspective, I look at this with the regularity of how often you're on a property. If you're fortnightly, you're going to get 20 cuts a year with lawn mowing. If you're gardening, it's probably going to work out a little bit similar in terms of the frequency that you're there. That's what I consider the bare minimum for a decent customer. And other people say, well, if a customer gets me there once a month, that's awesome. And I'm like, okay, if that's your business model, good for you. That wouldn't work for me.
Yeah, I do have a range of clients that I'm there every fortnight, every 4 weeks, every month. But I've got some clients with some of the gardens that they call me twice a year, and they always call me that specific time. They say, "Oh, we need you to do this, this, and this now." And if I'm there for a day or 2 days, twice a year, I'm quite happy to have that because there's good value in that.
Yeah, for sure.
Sure, you're not locked in. There's no contract, and but there's nothing wrong with it. That's say that's 3 to 4 full days of gardening a year on a property. Yeah, and you can get a great result, and that's a gardening job. That could be a pruning job.
For gardening, that's different to lawn mowing, right? You need the regularity for lawn mowing.
Yes.
Some gardens need the regularity too, but gardening is different to lawn mowing in that regard. You can have a huge variety of frequencies when it comes to gardening.
Yes. Yeah. And like I was just saying, so like I said, some of my clients are not weekly, fortnightly, it's monthly. And I've got some clients, like one couple nearby, they've got a double block, lovely garden, an older garden, and they just say, you come whenever you want to come. You just fit us in. I've never counted how many days in a year or how many hours I've actually been there, but no, they're great clients, and I just text them the invoice details and they pay me straight away wherever they are. They travel a bit, and no, they're happy, and they've always got extra work on. I'm not fussed if I can slot them in between, like a garden makeover, or I've got a sudden priority job. If they're happy to wait a week, they don't care what day of the week I come.
Yeah.
So they're right. That's ideal.
I look at, and you would have heard me say this before, but I look at 3 different levels of customer. My bare minimum customers, where they are my worst customers, and I still refer to them that way, but worst customer is still a good customer, right?
Yes.
So lawn mowing, 20 cuts a year, that's my worst customer. When it comes to gardening, it's going to be a different story. But in terms of ranking customers, the other end of worst customer is where they are really high maintenance. They want everything looking perfect. They want you there all the time. And I've had customers that are like that, which I love, but they are high maintenance because they want everything to be perfect, spotless, not a thing out of place all the time. And so if they're having a birthday party on the weekend, they want you there the day before the birthday party or at 4 a.m. the morning of the birthday party. So when people turn up, it still smells like freshly cut grass.
And they want you have to have all the ego equipment or whatever battery brand at 4 a.m.
Well, let's say I haven't actually done a 4 a.m. start like that on a residential property, no.
No, it's not going to happen.
But that's the level of expectation they've got. And the reason I love those customers is because if I go to them and I say, hey, look, I think you need this doing on your property, whether it's gardening or lawn mowing, they're like, shut up, stop asking us questions, just make it, get it done and charge us for it.
Yes.
They literally consider it an inconvenience when you knock on the door and say, do you want me to do this? No, we don't want to hear you ask the question. Just do it.
just do it. Yeah, I love it when the customer says, what do you think? My favourite line is, what would you do if this was your garden? That's the best one.
Yeah.
Where they've got total faith in you and you just sorting it out.
Yeah. So I guess that's the top end customers, right? Those 0.1% customers where you're like, you know that they want to compete with the best of the best. And then the majority of customers that are really good customers are where you have a little bit of back and forth in between in terms of managing budget and expectations. And you get, usually with those customers, you get the routine, which is frequent, regular, and predictable. And they want predictable, but they also want to have some control over what you're doing.
Thank you for listening to Aussie Lawn Stars. Please remember to rate and review the show on the Apple Podcasts app or the player you use. Exciting new shows are released every Monday. Make sure you follow or subscribe to hear the next episode.